Hello guys, welcome back to another update. In this update I'm doing a stress test. I have done quite a bit of work. There are 207 active agents. The amount of stuff I've done is hard to go into. It's quite a lot. I've set up the distance LOD systems for particle effects, for all kinds of things. Sprite renderers, shadows, uh, all sorts of things. I've also fixed the targeting indicator system and ships nearby. The off-screen indicators there, they fade and they're layered over each other properly to indicate distance. I have also added new weapon systems. I've added direct fire, or forward firing weapon systems to ships. So you'll see these ships shooting laser beams that are in a fixed direction. So that one has a turret, and the one's shooting laser beams. Also projectile, forward firing projectile weapons that are fixed position. There you see the forward firing laser beams firing. I've also updated the targeting system to offset the target vector for forward firing weapon systems for projectiles so they can accurately target ships. It still probably needs a little bit of work as far as controlling the speed and turning and various things to give it a little more accuracy control. Of course, I want to be able to change that to a degree to, dumb down the AI a little bit and control the difficulty level eventually. But you may also notice that the frame rate is extremely good. I'm very pleased with averaging between 150 to 200 frames per second, given the scope of what is happening behind the scenes, especially considering the targeting systems, what takes up the most CPU overhead and what is driving the frame rate at the moment is not as much graphics as it is CPU overhead use and memory access for ship targeting systems and how they acquire targets because of the sheer number of targets in the scene. It becomes resource heavy. But I may be able to tone that down a little bit more and optimize it a little bit more once I add squads and squad commander AIs and be able to reduce the size of those lists that they use for targeting. But right now it does cycle through pretty much all the targets in the scene to find nearest targets. But I have done a really good job of optimizing that to be able to get this really good and steady frame rate. And there are also quite a bit of projectiles on the screen as well. Now, most battles probably won't have this amount of weapons fire going on continuously. Some will in the game, so that's why I'm stress testing it for basically the worst case scenario. And right now, things like weapon fire hits, bullet projectile impact hits, and little explosion particle effects, those are all allotted out within the distance of 100 meters to the camera at the moment. So you're not seeing those off in the distance. Of course, that can change later on when there's an option setting for graphics quality. There will be some LOD controllers that you'll be able to slide yourself, which you don't really see that in games. You see just like settings for high quality. You know, it's more simplified, but I'm going to go ahead and give the end user the option to control the LOD distances themselves. So if they want to see basically the best quality battle, depending on whatever rig they have, they'll be able to do that and control more precisely the graphics quality of the battles. I'm also pleased with the stability. That's important. So you may notice that the frame rate isn't erratic or anything like that. It's very, very stable and consistent. So we're not seeing any big frame drops or spikes in frame drops, such as you know, the garbage collector. Now I've actually done quite a bit more things than I've listed here as far as, you know, the work I've done. I've worked so long every day, and I'm just moving on, cranking on from one thing to the next. The next thing that I'm doing, I'm about to show you guys, is a little treat. I'm about to replace all these ships with high quality assets, which I'm about to show you. And then after I get that done and tested, uh, when I make these new ships, I'm actually going to go ahead and build the turrets out for them. I'm gonna make all the turrets functional using my turret system. So go ahead, get it loaded up here, and I'll show you the new ships. Just a little sneak preview, which will be, these ships will be fully functional in the next video that I post on the channel. So let me go ahead and turn off some of these ships here. Oops, I still have the old ships here. I'll go ahead and do maximize on play. We'll put this over here. Go to the scene, and let me get rid of these old, not so great ships. Now these ships that I had in here are actually modular, and you can design your own, but they're not the level of quality that I really want to have in Galactic Armada. And these are more to the level of quality that I'm looking for in my game. They do cost quite a bit more money and are definitely an expense for me, but I feel like it's going to make the game much more immersive. So let's go ahead and have a look at them right here. We got a dreadnought. A destroyer. And all these turrets on these ships will be functional that came with the models. So I will be making them all work. And I'm actually going to be adding some more turrets to these ships, probably some point defense cannons. These larger cannons here will be more for targeting other large vessels, frigates, cruisers, and other capital ships. And then I'll be adding a couple probably missile turrets and a bunch of point defense turrets for attacking fighter craft that get near. And the battleship here, I'm going to add flat cannons. And I'm going to set up something very similar to the kind of flak barrage cannons that shoot down enemy projectiles and enemy incoming missiles that you would see in the TV show Battlestar Galactica when it opens up and creates a flak wall, which will be really cool to do and see. And then so we have a frigate, we have a battleship, we have a cruiser, a destroyer, and also I'm replacing all the fighter craft with these are higher quality models right here, this fighter right here, and also a bomber. And I will be making the forward firing weapons function too, and adding some turrets and forward firing weapons to these ships here, the fighter class and bomber class ships. Now, as far as scale, this is the scale that these models came in, but I am scaling them down. You may notice these little fighter craft are much smaller, and the reason for that is I'm scaling everything down because I really don't want to have to do a shifting origin system because of scale. I want to keep everything within the floating point precision range of the Unity scene or game engine, basically, which is they say it's under 10,000 meters, but I think you can go a little bit farther than that. But that's plenty actually for the scale that I'm scaling everything down to. Because generally in the game, the battles aren't going to be going like around the planet or anything. It's going to stay in sort of a localized area, which will be pretty big for the player. And the player wouldn't want to leave that area anyway because all the AI units, they're not going to go fly off into space. You know, they're going to be engaging in the battle, and they won't leave the localized area where the battle's occurring. Unless the player does fly off and chases the player out of range, basically. But I may go ahead and put a floating origin system in there just for that scenario if the player does decide they just want to go on a free flight off into nowhere. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more updates.